Hi, is this still available? Yes, it is. Seriously, guys, there's better ways to sell on Facebook Marketplace. And in today's video, I'm going to break down how I make thousands of dollars selling on Facebook Marketplace as a full-time eBay reseller. If you've sold on Facebook Marketplace, you know it is the wild west of reselling. And there are countless stories of people doing wacky stuff on Facebook Marketplace. But one of my favorite stories is from a friend of mine who does retail arbitrage slash couponing. He's one of those guys where his kitchen closet looks like a CVS. So he's got soaps and razors and laundry detergent and a whole bunch of other common household items. Occasionally he goes and sells these items locally through Facebook Marketplace. My favorite story is where he sold a brand new sealed in the box electric razor. Now this electric razor was a little more expensive than his normal items, and he was asking $80 for this razor. Some guy had messaged him on Facebook, asked for the address. He gave him his home address. The guy showed up and messaged him and said, "Hey, I'm parked out front, bring the item out." So my friend goes and brings the item out to him in the car. The guy says, "Can I take a look at it?" No problem. He hands it to him. The guy's in the car. He starts to rip open the plastic that's sealing the item. He takes the item out of the box. He takes this electric razor and he starts shaving his beard while sitting in the car with this razor. Meanwhile, he hasn't given my friend any money yet. So he's shaving, and my friend is kind of baffled by what's happening. And he's looking at the guy, and the guy's making eye contact with him. And he says, "Yeah, I think this will work." And he hands my friend the $80 and drives off. I'm telling you, there is some wacky stuff that happens on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm going to share a bunch of tips so you can avoid these guys. One of the coolest things that I found on Facebook Marketplace is that you can actually comp things. Similar to eBay, how you can go in and see what the item sold for, you can do the same thing on Facebook. So if you go on and let's just type in PS3, it's going to bring up all the listings for items in your area for PS3. Now I like to scroll that and see what the competition is selling their items for. Hey, this guy has one listed for $115. This guy has one listed for $45. I like seeing that. But if you go over to these little buttons over here and you click it, it'll bring down a list of other things you can sort by. And one of the things you can sort by is availability. When you click availability, it will say available or sold. If you click sold and click see items, it's actually going to bring up sold comps. So now you can scroll through and see what the item actually sold for. Now, does this necessarily mean that the item actually sold for that price? No. People negotiate items, so they might have taken less, and there's no way of knowing that. They might have sold it somewhere else. They might have gave up on selling it on Facebook because they had too many people ask if it's still available and then never show up. So this is one of the coolest things I have found, and it really helps me narrow down what they're actually selling for in my local area. Because just because something sells for a lot on eBay doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to sell for the same amount locally. Typically, it's going to sell for less locally. So my first rule is never meet at your house. Now, if you've sold enough stuff on Facebook Marketplace, you're going to know this. You're going to want to meet in a public spot. I personally have a church near my house. I'll go meet them at the church parking lot. And if I have a weird feeling about the person or I just happen to not be at home, I will meet the person at a police station. There's a lot of police stations in my area, and most of them have a safe exchange zone. Essentially, it's just a well-lit area. They put up a couple signs that says safe exchange zone, and they usually have cameras there, and it helps prevent robberies. If you sell certain items on Facebook Marketplace, you're more likely to face these robbery attempts. Most people on Facebook aren't looking to rob you, but there are some strange people out there, and I personally don't want these people knowing where I live. I don't want them knowing what items I have in my house, and I don't want them coming back to my house if they find that this item doesn't work for them and they want to return. All my sales are cash only as is. I let the buyer look it over. I explain anything that might be wrong with it, but I'm also not going to have some stranger show back up to my house and demand money back. And I've actually had that happen, and that is where I made this new policy where I am going to meet you somewhere else and you are not coming to my house. Along with meeting people in a safe spot and not having them come to your house, another advantage is you can make them choose a specific time. So when you give them your home address, they know you're going to be home, so they'll just show up whenever. They could say, hey, I'll be there in 20 minutes, and they could come in 3 hours, and you don't know. And I personally don't want people just showing up at my house at random hours. So when you meet them somewhere, you're telling them that, hey, I need to know what time you're going to be there, and they have now committed to a specific time. I have found that this actually converts to sales more often. If you sell on Facebook Marketplace, you know that it is hard to get people to actually show up and buy the item. Everyone will send that message, hey, is this available? And then you reach out and say, yes, it is. And then they just ghost you. I guess they just wanted to know if the item was available. They didn't actually want to buy it. But if you get past those first couple steps and you start picking a meeting place, and you pick a specific meeting time, the conversion and the likelihood that that person is going to show up and actually buy your item goes way up. So along with picking a safe place to meet, also have a good escape plan. Now, like I said, robberies and other forms of violence are pretty rare, and most people just want to buy the item and move on, but always have an escape plan. When I choose a parking lot, I choose it so that I know that there's at least two ways in and out. I don't let them come in and block my car. I park in a way so that I can drive out. So that means I back into a parking spot. I want my back towards the back of the parking lot so I can see them pulling into the parking lot. And another tip is to make sure the person gets out of the car. So my friend handed that razor to that person in that car. They could have drove off and taken the item and ran away. I get out of the car. I don't go near their car. I have them come to my car and look at the item over by my car. I usually stand back a little ways and I let them check it out. I don't want to be handing them things inside their car where they can now just take off. I don't want to go over near their car where they might have some kind of weapon or might have more people in the car. I want them coming over to me. And one of my general rules is they are going to get out of the car. I will not sell you items while you are sitting in the car. You're going to get out, you're going to come over and look at me. And I don't tell them this. The way I do it is I just get out of my car and I stand there with the item. And 9 times out of 10, they're just going to be like, okay, I guess I get out of the car. And they get out of the car and they come over. Just some other general safety tips would be to let someone know that you're meeting this person so that if something was to happen, they know that you were, hey, at this parking lot, or you were meeting them at this park, or whatever it was, that someone else knows where you are. You also want to listen to your gut. If something is telling you that something is wrong with this encounter, there is someone else that will buy your item. If that person is being super sketchy, I actually had someone that said that they would not meet me at a police station. What did I think? That they were going to rob me? And he actually took pictures of his driver's license and sent me pictures of his driver's license and told me he has kids and that he's not going to hurt me and that I can just meet him at my house. And he just went on and on and on. That flew up major red flags for me. I didn't want any part of that. I know that item will sell to someone else that's a little more normal. And I just blocked that guy and moved on. If there's something that's telling you that there's something wrong with this person or with this transaction, just block them and pick someone else to sell your item to. Another thing that I like to do is once we've agreed upon a meeting time and a meeting location is ask them what car they're going to be in. This helps me know that when they're pulling into the parking lot, I know that's the car I'm meeting and I can look at them and say, hey, there's 4 people in there. Hey, they're wearing masks. Hey, they have a weapon in their hand. Whatever it is, I want to be able to visually check that car out while it's pulling into the parking lot so that I know who's in it and I know what to expect. Along with safety, another thing I like to do is use a different account than my personal account. So I don't want someone that's coming to buy an item to know all of my personal information. So I use another account. Now, if you don't want to use another account, that's fine. Know that the person might have your name, but hide all your other information. You don't need the person that buys something from you on Facebook knowing where you work, who you're married to, who your friend group is. You can go into Facebook and change those privacy settings. If you're going to be selling on Facebook, I highly recommend that you hide as much information as you can. The buyer doesn't need that information. The only time they're ever going to look at that information is if they have a problem with you, and then they're going to use that information against you. I don't negotiate on site. So if someone wants to negotiate, they're going to have to negotiate with me during the messages. Once they've arrived, I no longer negotiate with them. And the reason is that 9 times out of 10, they've already committed too much time and effort to come get that item. They may have driven 10 plus minutes to come pick up that item. They tied up an afternoon. They were already messaging you. So 9 times out of 10, if they're asking for a discount on site and you just simply say, no, I have someone else that's already interested in it. No, this item's only been up for a couple days, so I'm pretty firm on the price. And you just give a little bit of pushback, they are going to just fold and pay the full price. And this happens pretty frequently. I'll have someone that shows up and says, hey, would you take 20 instead of 40? And I'll just say, no, I actually have a few other people. If you're not interested, it's not really a big deal. He says, oh, no, no, no. I just had to ask. I just wanted to see if you would do less. I'll totally pay the 40. And they give you the 40. And that simple thing of not folding under that first thing will help you make more money. Now, keep in mind, some people may walk away, but that's okay. If they're really going to leave and you really want to sell the item, you can also change your mind and say, you know what, I'll actually take that $20. So it's okay to play that game, but be a little more firm when you're actually on site. That person has invested time to be there and they want that item. So negotiating on site doesn't work for me. I usually just let them walk away if they are going to walk away, but that's pretty rare. Most of the time, they're just seeing if they can get a good last minute deal, but they already have committed to purchasing that item at that price that we agreed to. Along with confidence, you also want to know what your limits are. So for me, I will not wait past 15 minutes if the person hasn't communicated. Now, sometimes there's a rare case and the person says, hey, traffic was really bad, there's an accident, I'm going to be there in 5 more minutes, and I'll wait for them. But if they're not communicating and they haven't shown up in 15 minutes past the time that we said we were going to meet, my time is valuable, I'm leaving, and I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And I've had this happen a few times where people just think that I'm going to sit in a parking lot and wait for them for a half an hour. I'll even tell people that are coming from a further distance away that, hey, I'm pretty close to that location that we're going to meet at. So just message me when you're 10 minutes away. That way they have a little bit of leeway. So work with the people, but also stand your ground. You don't want to be stuck sitting in a parking lot for 3 hours waiting for someone who decided that they needed to stop at the gas station to get a Twinkie before they came to make this transaction with you. Along with making it worth your time, don't sell low dollar items on Facebook. It's not worth it. If this item is going to sell for $5, $10 and you're going to have to go meet this person and this person's not going to show up and then they're going to show up and haggle with you, it's just not worth it. Me personally, I rarely sell items on Facebook that aren't going to make me $100 because it's just not worth my time of leaving the house, driving to a location, waiting for this person to show up, taking a chance of becoming a victim of violence or becoming a victim of a robbery. It's not worth it to me. So I only sell items that I'm going to make a decent amount of money on. Occasionally, I'll lot a bunch of smaller items together. So like video games are a good example. I buy a lot of lots of video games and I'll sell the good ones on eBay, and then I'll lot up all the bad ones and sell the bad ones for maybe 50, 60 bucks. But you have to determine what's worth your time. I always laugh when I'm scrolling on Facebook and I see someone selling a t-shirt for $3 and I'm like, that is not worth the hassle. Like, you're not making any money. You might as well just donate it at that point or have a yard sale. Another little trick I like to use is making them bring cash. So when I talk about people negotiating on site and trying to get a better deal last minute, I can kind of avoid that by simply saying cash only. So when someone says that they're going to meet me, if we haven't already talked about it and they haven't already asked, I'll just go out and say, hey, I don't have Venmo or Cash App. I only take cash. And they'll say, okay, no problem. I have to stop by the bank, or okay, no problem. It's pretty rare that someone will say, well, I don't have cash or whatever. I do this for two reasons. One was when I first started selling a lot of stuff, I had a few people that added the protection policy to the Venmo transaction and they made me pay for it. It came out of my pay. And I didn't realize that at the time because we were standing there and they just sent it to me. I'm like, yeah, I see it. I got it. You're good to go. And then I like look and I'm like, oh, I paid $6 so that they could be protected. No, thank you. That was the first reason I did it. And then I discovered that this actually will help you convert sales. So if the person has to agree to a certain time and location to meet you, and they have to go to the bank and pick up cash, or they have to find exact change to bring to you. They've now committed 2 steps, and they are 10 times more likely to actually buy that item from you. It's super rare that if someone is telling me that they're going to meet me at a certain time, that they come and look at the item and they don't buy it. As long as I'm being honest about the condition of the item and what I'm selling, there is no reason that someone's going to go to the bank, pull out cash, meet me at a certain location at a certain time that might be inconvenient. They have to drive 10, 20 minutes to come meet me, and they have to be on time. And then they're going to simply say, no, I don't want it. I just wanted to look at it. It's super rare. So I find that by requiring the cash, it helps me convert to actual sales. So I try to be super friendly and super helpful to anyone that asks me any questions, but I also do provide all the information in the listing, and I give great photographs of the item. So if I'm getting a lot of questions from some guy that says, hey, what about this? What about that? Does this work with this item? Does this work with that? And I'm having to provide customer service before I've even sold it, I just ignore them and move on. There'll be someone else that will come along and they'll just message me and say, hey, when can I come pick this up? That's my favorite. Hey, when can I come pick this up? I want to sell to that guy. I don't want to sell to the guy that's asking me a million questions, because once we meet, he's going to show up, he's going to ask me a million more questions, and he's less likely to convert to an actual sale. He's just shopping around, he's trying to learn about the item. Once someone has met with me, I will help them. If they want to look the item over, they want to open it, they want to see how it works, they want to try it on, whatever it is, I want them to know that the item works. I want them to know what they're getting. Like I said, I don't take returns. I'm not going to give you your money back because you decided you didn't want it or something. So I want to make sure that they're very happy with this transaction. And the best way to do that is say, hey, take your time, go ahead and look at that. They usually look it over quick. They might, like with a golf club, they might give it a swing, or they might try on the jacket or something, but they're not going to spend all day there. So it's not that big of a deal to just let them fully look the item over. And I think it's a super fair way, especially if you're not going to take returns. When I'm creating a listing on Facebook, I want it to be professional, but I don't want them to know that it's professional, if that makes sense. So when I create an eBay listing, I use a nice white clean background. I have great lighting. I have no clutter in the photo. I want them to see the item, and I want them to know I'm a professional seller on eBay. On Facebook, I want them to be able to see the item and look at the item and get all the information that they need from the item, but I don't want them to know I'm a reseller. I want them to simply think I'm some guy cleaning out my closet and I'm listing this item. So instead of using a white clean background, I'll actually throw it on the floor and take a picture there. If it's something bigger, I'll use my garage floor. I might lay it out on my bed and take it with the bedspread in the background. Whatever I can do to make it look less professional while still providing the same information. The reason I do this is because, like me, I'll go on to Facebook and I'll scroll to buy things to resell on eBay. However, when I see someone and they clearly took the item inside of like a photo light box, I don't even bother clicking on their listing, because I'm like, that's a reseller and he's trying to get eBay prices on Facebook. There is no deal to be had there. He's looked the item up and he knows exactly what it sells for on eBay, and he ain't going to take any less. So what I'm looking for when I'm scrolling on Facebook is that cluttered photo. I'm looking for that guy that threw the video game on the floor or on the kitchen counter, or threw the t-shirt on the bedspread, or threw the golf clubs on the floor in the garage. I'm not looking for that white clean background on Facebook Marketplace. So know who your customer is, and know that you don't want to come off as someone reselling. No one on Facebook wants to buy from a reseller. They want to buy from someone locally. They don't want to pay the full price. They're buying from someone locally to get a good deal. If they wanted to pay the full price for the item, they would go on to eBay and have that return policy. They would have the items shipped so that they're not inconvenienced. There's a lot of advantages to buying on eBay. When you buy locally, you have to drive there, you have to go meet this person, you have to pick up the item and bring it home. There is no return policy in most cases. So you want to differentiate yourself from an eBay seller and a Facebook Marketplace seller. I personally don't like cross listing. I don't sell on multiple platforms. I've tried other platforms. It's just not worth my time to sell 2 items over on Mercari and one on Poshmark and sit there on Whatnot and try to sell things live. It's time waste for me. I would rather list things on eBay and sell things on eBay. I have figured out eBay is my best platform. It might not be your best platform, but it's my best platform. So I just double down on that and I put all my effort and listings onto eBay. The one exception to this is Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace allows me to pick up things that I might not sell on eBay for whatever reason, and I can sell them locally. There's a few things that I would never sell on eBay, and those are usually large items. So when I'm out sourcing, I come across a lot of large items, and the best place to sell those is locally. So think of things like golf clubs and baseball bats and kayaks and boats and anything with a motor, a dirt bike, a mini bike, a chainsaw, a lawnmower, a weed whacker. All of those things have great value locally. But if you try to list them on eBay, they're not going to sell because no one wants to pay the shipping to get those large items delivered to them. Plus, you don't want to have to pay the return shipping if something went wrong with that transaction. So it's better to sell those items locally. And there's a great market for it. In the spring, kayaks and boats sell like bananas around here. So if you can stock up on kayaks and boats throughout the winter, when spring comes around, you can make thousands of dollars just selling kayaks in the local area, depending on your area, of course. But go scroll through Facebook and see what people are selling and find out what is common in your area. Think about what people like to do during the different seasons. If you're in a ski area like I am in Utah, you can find a lot of snowboards and skis at yard sales throughout the summer. If you have the place to store those, you can offload those in the fall when people are looking to purchase those. And yes, you can sell skis and snowboards on eBay, but man, it is a lot easier to sell them locally because you don't have to ship them and you don't have to take the chance of the return or it not fitting. Someone can actually come out and try it on and see if they like it right there in person. Another thing I love about Facebook Marketplace is cash. Like you make the money today. So like if I sell the item today, I get paid today and Facebook doesn't take anything. There's no fees, there's no worrying about returns 90 days from now or people opening credit card disputes or anything along those lines. So Facebook Marketplace is a great way to make money if you need it today. So run to the thrift store and pick up that weed whacker, get it running, and you can sell that right in the spring and make money that day. One of the biggest things I did to actually change to converting to sales is when someone messages me and says, hey, is this available? The prompt that Facebook gives you is yes, it is. And you can just click that little button and it sends that message out. That buyer gets yes, it is. And they don't really know what to do with it from there. My favorite thing to say back to them is, yes, it is available. When would you like to come check it out? Now, not everyone responds to that because not everyone was actually interested in the item. I don't know what it is with Facebook. For some reason, it's just really easy to click that button and say, hey, is this available? And then you're like, cool, it was available. I didn't know that it was available. I guess now I know and I didn't really want it. If you respond back with another question and the person's actually interested in the item, they are more likely to convert to the sale. By you saying, when would you like to come check it out? You're not saying, hey, you have to come buy this. It's, hey, when would you like to come take a look at it? And it opens up the door to them asking more questions or them setting a time and place to come pick it up. When I send that out, about a third of people will ask some other question. They'll just simply say, hey, does this fit on whatever? Or does this work? Or is there anything wrong with it? But that's fine. That keeps the conversation going. The other third of the people will just not respond. Those are the people that would have never responded anyway, so it doesn't matter. And the other third are glad that I asked that, and they'll simply say, hey, I'm available right now. Can I come check it out? And I'll say, yeah, no problem. Let's meet here. Another huge thing is if someone is messaging you about an item and they can meet you now or in an hour or today or tonight, whatever time they can meet you, if you can meet them at that time, you're going to increase the likelihood that they're actually going to buy it. It is super frustrating as a buyer to reach out to someone and say, hey, is this available? And they say, yeah, no problem, it's available. And you're like, cool, can I come check it out now? And they're like, well, I'm out of town for the week, I'll be back next month, or I'm not available this weekend, but I'll be available on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And you're like, oh man, I work Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So if they ask for a time and you can meet them at that time, just know that your conversion on sales is going to go up if you can actually go and meet them at that time. Now, I personally sometimes can't meet people. I'm outsourcing, I'm doing something else, I'm away for the weekend, whatever it is. But I do know that if someone messages me at 6 o'clock and I'm sitting around doing nothing and they say, hey, can I come check this out right now? And I can make $100 by just walking out my door and going and meeting them at the police station or the local church here, that there is no better time to meet them than right then and there, because I'm not really doing anything and they're actually available to come meet. Facebook's search algorithm is messed up, to say the least. It makes no sense. You can search for something and it will show you something completely different. So if you're selling something that can be called two different things, make sure you put the two different things in the title. A great example of this is if you're having a yard sale. If I search yard sale, I'll see it. If I search garage sale, I'm not going to see it. So if you're running a yard sale, put garage sale in the title. Yard sale, garage sale, and the date. And this goes for any of the items. So if I'm selling a PlayStation 3, I'm going to put in PlayStation 3 video games. That's just going to help the algorithm understand that this is in video games and that they're going to show it to people that may search video games and they're just looking for any video games to buy. I personally think selling on Facebook is a great side hustle for a full-time eBay reseller. It's a great way to get into reselling, and it's a great way to expand your reselling business. If you are already out and you're sourcing items to sell on eBay, there are a lot of items that you are walking past that will never sell on eBay. Your lawnmowers, your kayaks, your ski equipment, your kitchen appliances, anything like that. If you can pick it up and you have the place to store these larger items, Facebook is the perfect place to sell these items. If you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this one, so go ahead and give it a click.